can't be 25 still making $10 an hour. I had gotten fed up with it. I wanted something better, and I always had flipping in the back of my mind. I dabbled in it a little bit, but I could never find a way to make it stick.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to A Reseller's Journey. Here is your host, eBay Joey.
Welcome to the show. I am your host, eBay Joey. Today's guest is a young gun in the reselling game. On his Instagram, you can see his finds from retail to thrift stores. He gives selling and organizing tips on his Instagram stories. He has 1,400 followers on Instagram. He goes by the name Jersey Flipping, but his professors call him Zach. Welcome and thank you for being on the show.
What's going on, Joey?
Hey, I'm doing good, man. How are you, brother?
Never been better. Life's good. Can't complain. Living the dream, right?
Hey, that's it, man. Living the dream, and we're going to talk your journey. And I think people are going to be very excited about this one.
Yes, sir. I'm excited for it. So let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. So how'd you come up with your name, Jersey Flipping?
Oh, dude, like I'm the worst with names. So I like honestly, every time I have to create a name, like a gamer tag or a website, anything I have to do, it's like it's the worst. So like I just try to think of two things that just make sense, like the closest two things, and for me, it just makes sense. I think I saw like Florida flipping or some other state. Somebody else had like a state and it was like flipping. So I'm like, I'm gonna just do Jersey flipping. It's simple, it's easy, no one else has it, so just rock with it. And the name wasn't really as important to me because I didn't really think this was gonna like go anywhere. And not that 1,400 is like, lighting the world on fire, but I didn't think it was ever gonna get to this size where I'd be meeting people and like talking to you and doing this podcast. But yeah, man, it's just kind of just came out of nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a crazy thing where you never know in anything you do in life, man, what direction you're gonna go, how deep you're gonna go. It could be a good experience, a bad experience, but the main thing is that you're doing it. So how long have you been going under the name Jersey Flipping for?
So I made this account probably a couple weeks after I just started flipping stuff. So
Mhm.
probably since February. I think I started like late January, February. So about February, I'd say.
Of this year,
Yeah.
2019.
hmm
Okay, so where are you based out of in New Jersey?
South Jersey. So I'm probably if you're if you're really flying on the highway, I'm probably about 15 minutes away from Philly at night, going like 90 miles an hour. So I'm not
Oh
far
wow.
from Philly. I'm about 40 minutes, 35 minutes from the shore. So like I'm right smack dab between the middle of these two, like maybe 2.5 hours outside of New York City. So like I'm in a really good spot to be able to source a lot of different stores in the area. It's very densely populated, and so just in my area, I think that there is, if I counted them up, just in my immediate area, like maybe a 20-mile radius, there's probably between Ross, Burlington, Marshalls, and if you want to throw Plato's in there as well, TJ Maxx, there's probably between 25 and 30 stores within a 20-mile radius. So it's really easy to get out there and hit a lot of stores really quickly. So I'm very fortunate in that regard.
Yeah, man. I think there's resellers that are across the United States, and everybody has a different situation. But I know there's one guy where he has to travel like an hour and a half just to get to one store, and
Yeah,
that's his only store. So, no, that's a
yeah.
good thing that you have a lot around you. Now, were you born and raised in the New Jersey area?
Yep. So I think where I was born was probably maybe 20 minutes from where I am now. And then we moved and lived probably about 10 minutes from where I was born. And then I moved when I was like 12 or no, I think it was like 9 or 10. And then I moved to where I'm living now, which is where I've been since then. So I've been living my current location for like the last 15 years, Jersey, born and raised my whole life. And I'll probably never leave just because I love it. I love this. I get 4 seasons every year. I'm right by the beach. I'm right by the big cities. There's really nowhere else that I'd rather be. And if you're doing this, there's no tax on shoes and clothes. So that is a very big help in doing what I
Yeah,
do.
I was talking to another reseller. His name's Stevie D Reselling, and he's from the New Jersey
That's
area,
my
and I
guy right
interviewed
there.
him.
Shout out Stevie D.
Shout out Stevie D Reselling. But he was mentioning that they don't have sales tax on, I believe, shoes, but they do cleats. Can you kind of give us the 411 on your tax code for New Jersey?
As far as I've read over it a little bit. I'm not entirely sure. As far as like this stuff goes, I know clothes and shoes, they do not like they're I think they're considered essential items, so they're not taxable. However, yeah, equipment like gloves or cleats, like they're going to be taxed because they're not like an essential. So yeah, we don't get taxed on any shoes or clothes. So it comes in handy a lot when you're doing this because it probably saves me a couple $100 in tax if not more a year, honestly. It's super helpful, super helpful.
Yeah, man, you're definitely fortunate for being in that area. For me, I'm in Central California, and the taxes are about 8.5%. But if I do go sourcing in the Bay Area, they go up to 10%.
Wow.
San Francisco, San Jose. So you figure if you spend $100, that's $10. That's taxed, right? And
Yeah,
then for you, for a reseller in New Jersey, that $10 is straight to your pocket, straight to the
right.
bottom line.
Yeah, I mean it's almost like you're wiping. I mean it's almost it's like another fee. I mean it's like if I were to have to pay an extra 6% in eBay fees because I don't have that six like the tax here in Jersey I think is 6.625% on I
Mhm.
think most things. So like if I buy a pair of gloves, for example, for 5.99 from Marshalls, they bring up 6.39 I think it is because it's 6.625%. So for me, it's I mean that 6% is or 6.5 or over 6.5%. I mean that's almost like that's halfway there to a full what eBay charges you. You know what I mean? So it's like if I had to pay that on top of all the fees that I'm paying, it would add up and definitely hurt the margins a little bit. So I'm very fortunate that I don't have to deal with that.
Yeah, man. Kudos to you and everybody in New Jersey. Now, do you feel because you do get that tax break or there's not that much taxes that when it comes to pricing your items that you can go a little bit lower because you have that margin, or do you just even forget about even going lower and just say, I'm going to get my max dollar?
Yeah, so I mean, my general rule has changed over time. When I first started out, I heard some people throw around, I think Hustler Hacks. I think Glenn was the first person to um, say, like, for me, the first person I heard, he threw out a margin of like 40%. Like, that's his number. He said
Hmm.
like 40%. I believe it was him. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, Glenn. But I think it was like
Yeah.
40%. So I'm like, all right, cool. Like, that sounds good. So, like, when I started doing it, I'd be buying $50 shoes from Ross and trying to make like $20 on them. And I quickly learned that that's not a very effective business model. So for me, when I'm pricing things, now that my recently adopted model is if I'm going retail, Ross, Burlington, stuff like that, I want to at least double my money after all my fees. Otherwise, it's not worth it for me because then the cost of the item and the amount of time that it sits and I'm waiting for it to sell ultimately not outweighs the profit, but it can be a burden when you're doing this full time. You're trying to expand and grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. Capital becomes an issue after a while. And so you have to be careful because shelf space is valuable, which is why retail is so hard for companies to deal with. Is because if if I'm a company and I make soap and I'm trying to sell it at Target, Target is only going to allow me to be there for a certain amount of time before they kick me out. That there's a lot of rules that you have to go through because Target values their shelf space, so it's hard. You have to fight for that shelf space. I see it the same way in my business. Is a product has to fight for my shelf space. If it's not worth me, if the juice isn't worth the squeeze, then I'm just going to leave it. And so for me, 2x return on my money after fees in retail. And then I'm really, really big into thrifting now. So for me, with the thrifting, I'm trying to at least triple my return after all fees or triple my money after fees. But I'm really trying to adopt like almost like a Rinzi model. They were huge inspirations for me when it came to like used shoes and just
Hmm.
overall in starting. So they always preach like they try to get back $25 for a used pair of shoes after all fees. So I try to stick to that. I kind of blend everything together, but for me, that's kind of like where I'm sitting at right now. And not having to pay taxes definitely does help free up an extra $5 to kind of hit those goals.
Yeah, man. I think for the audience that is not viewing this on YouTube and can't see you, I mean, you're a very young guy. Can you tell the audience how old you are?
Well, I'm actually a lot older than I look. If you can see me in the very poor lighting that I have going on here, you probably think I just graduated high school, but I'm actually 25 right now, going on 26 next year. So I'm about, still young, I guess.
Yeah, you're
youngish.
but definitely one of the young guns resellers in the reselling game. But to hear someone like you that's 25, 26 years old, and you have this business model and you have this theory where shelf space is important, and you also brought the retail aspect to it, which is very important because I used to deal with Lowe's and Home Depot as a vendor, and people would pay, the manufacturers would pay for shelf space as far as where they're going to be placed, and you want to go where their eyes are going. And I think for us resellers that do have inventory, and some of us might have a small space like a closet. I got a closet in my house. I mean, I'm married, and all the married people out there, you might know what the struggle's like. But in your situation, you have a basement. I can see through the webcam that you
Yep.
do have a lot of space. So
Yep. Yep.
it's awesome that you have this mindset on it where, the retail aspect, you want to get 2 times your return. And then on the thrift side, you want to get 3 times your return.
Yeah.
So how did you get started in reselling?
So for me, like I said, I made the account jersey flipping back in around February, March-ish. A few weeks after I got started, I started early February. At the time, I was working at the Nike outlet, and just kind of I'd been there for about a year and a half at that point, and it was a really fun job. You meet a lot of really cool people. I don't know how other people's experiences have been, but I had the pleasure of working with a lot of really fun, unique people that made going to work every day a blast. Even most of the managers were like awesome, and I still consider them good friends to this day. But at the time, I was getting really fed up with my situation because of where I am in life. A retail job where you're making $10 an hour, no matter how cool Nike is, you get free stuff every couple months. You get, the employee discount. There's a lot of cool perks with working there. It's fun. But ultimately, making $10 an hour just wasn't cutting it for me anymore. I just felt like for me, I have a long ways to go in school. So I won't be out of school until I'm about 30-ish because I'm going to medical school. And so I was just really frustrated. I'm like, I can't be 25 still making $10 an hour. I had gotten fed up with it. I wanted something better. And I always had flipping in the back of my mind. I dabbled in it a little bit, but I could never find a way to make it stick. And then I found a Know It to Flip It video.
Mhm.
And I was putting out job applications, but then I was like, let me go see, like, let me just YouTube what people are doing with this flipping stuff because I want to get into it. So I sent out the job application or whatever, and then I went to YouTube, searched something up, found Jake, found his videos, thought they were like insane, and I couldn't believe that people were flipping stuff out of Ross and Marshalls and Burlington. Like I thought it was just a Goodwill thrift store thing. I couldn't believe what he was finding from these stores. I got addicted to his videos, and I said that day I'm going to go out and hit as many stores as I can and see what I find. And I came home, and I probably brought home half the pile that I got was probably garbage, but it got me started. And then after a couple sales, I started seeing like real money, and I started getting to the point where within that first month, I would go to work and I would come back on my lunch break and I'd check my phone and I would see 2 sales pop up. And I'm like, wow, I just made more money from flipping these
Mhm.
2 items that I found in 20 minutes at Ross than I'm going to make on my 8-hour shift or my 9-hour shift. And it didn't take very long for me to just look at that and go, this is broken. This doesn't make sense for me to keep doing this. And after my first month, February, my first month of doing this, I did 3K in sales and like 1,400 in profit. And that to me was just insane. It was more than I was making working at Nike. And I was like, I'm fed up. I'm ready to make the jump. It's only been a month, but I've got enough. I've got enough safety net to be like, if this doesn't work out in 2 or 3 months, I can go back to this. This is a safe move. You know what I mean? Going to Nike and coming back, I can do that. That's safe. This is something that could really pay off in the long term. And so I just made the jump after a month. I put in my 2 weeks, and then I was just off and running from there.
Nice, man. And I think that's when I started in on Instagram and made the account and started reselling on eBay, and I started following you. So I do know your journey from the beginning.
Yeah, you were very
Now,
early.
yeah, I was very early, man, and I think we went back and forth, and you were one of the guys out there that would answer, my questions, or we would bounce off ideas, and it was just cool to have that, you know, that friendship, and not that we looked at each other as competitors, but more like as colleagues,
Oh yeah.
and now it's like you're growing, I'm growing, and we can help people as well. Now,
Yep.
you mentioned that when you're working at Nike Outlet, you you went out and you bought some stuff. Now, what was the capital amount that you just said, I'm gonna give it a shot?
What do you mean?
So when you were working at Nike, you said, oh, I want to resell. You're not too sure if if working at Nike $10 an hour is worth it. So you just said, I'm gonna try to just flip stuff. How much did you invest into flipping when you went
Uh,
out for the first time?
So, I don't know if it's the best strategy, but I mean, if you have the capital, like the actual money to back it,
Hmm.
I just use my credit card because I was like, you know what, like I can put everything on my credit card. I don't have to pay it until the end of next month. Like it gives me time to return, and so like I didn't really have, and I had a good savings that I could fall back on and use to fund the business, which I do to this day. So I was like, I'm just gonna charge everything to the credit card, just see what happens, and I kind of was just buying everything left and right, and that kind of created some issues with me. I had a lot of returns in the beginning, was making very small margins on certain items that I lost the receipt to or what have you. But as far as like how much I started with, I definitely started with a little bit of I didn't start from scratch from zero because I did have a nice savings that could fund my purchases if I had to. So I don't have like a rags to riches thing where I started with like $0 and flipped my shoes and then you flip that money and flipped it and flipped it. I just kind of started buying stuff up and seeing where it took me, and it led me to here.
Yeah, that's interesting, man, because my story is very similar, the journey that I took. And I didn't want to use my own capital. I was like, you know what? I got a full-time job. Let me try to create something with someone else's capital. So I used a credit card and did the whole game of buying, keeping track of receipts, making returns, taking less on my items because you want to get that sale and then pay off the credit card.
Yep.
But now that I've grown into reselling, my philosophy has changed where it's like, let me use my profits, let me try to buy good merchandise, sit on it, price it right, get that profit, because it seems like now when it's dry, people are like, man, I can't find anything. But if you have good inventory selection and you price it right, it seems like you can kind of weather those storms because
Yeah.
you don't really need to find stuff.
Yep. Because you have that long tail.
Yeah.
And so that's why like it's very important to have capital. Like it's very important to have cash. And that's why like if you're gonna use a credit card, like you should have the money to back it. Like you shouldn't have $0 in your bank account or $100 in your bank account and you're buying up $1,000 worth of inventory, because then it's like what happens if you can't sell through all of that inventory and you can't make the payment? Then you're paying interest on the credit card, which is like going to be over 20%, and now you're losing money to the interest. So you have to have the cash to fund it, and like you were saying, putting money back into the business and taking profits and rolling it back in to get more inventory, and then having inventory like when things slow down, which I personally I feel like things slowed down in like late August, early September. It seemed like everybody I talked to, it was just super dry. Did you have that experience?
Yeah, definitely out here where I'm at, it just seems like some of the stores, man, because I'm in a small town, small city. I'm in the Central Valley, and I would have to go to like San Jose. You have to go to San Francisco. You have to go to these big market cities if you really want to find stuff. But guess what? There's resellers over there doing the same thing you're trying to do. So you do got to weather the storm, or sometimes you got to be creative, and then that's when your reselling game kicks in. You can't
Yeah.
just pigeonhole yourself where it's like I'm doing shoes only. Sometimes you got to go into clothes,
Yep.
equipment, things like
Yep.
that.
I was very much like when I started out, I was doing everything. I was doing the clothes and the shoes and everything like that. And then I started getting to the point where I was only doing shoes. And that kind of I did that for a couple months, and that did pigeonhole me because after a while I said, you know what, let me start branching out and checking these other spots. And then I started finding these high-end soccer gloves and the football gloves and certain jackets. And now, it's the cold weather season, you get a lot of cool hoodies and jackets. But I'm like, damn, like I've been missing out because I mean, I bought a pair of baseball catcher shin guards for like $40 on clearance from Marshalls, and like that's just something. It's just random, but like you look at the comps and they were selling over 100. And I'm like, okay, you're gonna sit on them for a while. They won't sell till spring, but you know what? When they do sell, and I make 50, $60 off of them, it's gonna be nice to have that come over and have that sale pop up out of nowhere. And that's where it comes into having the capital and just knowing that if you're going to do this, you have to treat it like a business to some extent. Like even if you're doing it part time for fun on top of your
Hmm.
job, like just know that like all businesses have money that they sit on no matter what. And so like for me, like I know that like at all times, especially as you grow and you're trying to expand your sales and your business, I'm going to be sitting on more and more inventory. Like I'm going to have more stuff just sitting in my basement, taking up space, waiting for it to sell. But that's okay because I'm building something bigger, but I also have the capital to fund it. I'm not overextending myself and maxing out credit cards to be able to do this. But like you said, having, that, weathering those storms by having good inventory that maybe it's sat for 2 months, but when that sale comes in on a random night in October and you made $50 off of it, it's really nice. You go, oh man, I bought that how long? Oh, it was 2 months ago. Damn, like just out of nowhere. And that just happened to me today with a pair of Adidas Predator soccer gloves. I sold them a couple hours ago and I bought them 2 months ago, and it just popped up. And I'm like, okay, dope. Like, you know what I mean? Like I've been wait. I bought like 6 pairs. I sold through two. I'm still sitting on another four, and then that one rolled in, and I'm like, all right, sweet. Like, you know what I mean? Just having that the long tail is very important.
Yeah, definitely, man. At what point do you say, I just don't want to source anymore? My inventory is paid for. Do you do you just continue sourcing, or you just say, I just have too much inventory, and you just kind of take a break a little bit?
So that's interesting. So for me, I never want to stop sourcing because you never know. Like you never know when something's hot is gonna hit. You know what I mean? If I say I'm reaching my limit here, I have to kind of slow down, and then that could be the same week that 4 pairs of Jordan 12 retros slide in to your Marshalls like they did for me, and
Mhm.
you miss them. It just so happens that I was lucky enough to go out that day and find them. But like that's or the last Tuesday when I went out in the morning and found some Pegasus 35 samples, 2 pairs of those, and I've already flipped one and made good profit off of it. It's like if I ever stop, I'm gonna stop finding good stuff. And there's been a lot of moments, a lot of times where I'm selling through stuff that I've sourced within the last month, and I'm sitting on stuff that I've it's been sourced that I sourced 2-3 months ago. And so it's like if I stop sourcing, sales are probably going to slow down. And um, to the point of running out of money or feeling like you're at capacity, that's why I've been shifting my business model lately, because the cost of retail items is getting high. You're paying
Mhm.
$30 to $50 a shoe. Vapor Maxes are 65. And so like when if that's all you're doing, the cost adds up. And I just found that for me, it's like at some point, like it's not going to be sustainable. And so I decided to get back into the used shoe game, like thrifted shoes, thrifted clothes, jackets, vintage stuff, because the costs are a fraction of what you'd pay at retail, and the returns are actually better. People don't realize that a $5 shoe that you sell and make $20 off of is a better flip than a shoe that you bought at Ross for $40 and made $40 off of, because in the thrifted shoe scenario, if you made $20 profit and you got your $5 back, you 5x your money. In the Ross scenario, you only 2x your money. Yeah, you made $40 on that Ross flip, whereas you only made $20 on the thrifted flip. But if you do that kind of flip from the thrift and you do it over and over and over again, you're spending way less money. You can stretch your money far further and you're getting better returns. And so for me, I'm like, you know what? Let's go back to the thrifted stuff, save money, acquire more inventory, do more volume, sell through quicker, and that way I can keep my costs down and not have to worry about, long term, because I just felt like that was a model that just my costs are just too high. So I had to scale back.
Yeah, man, I think that was well said. And it is true where, I mean, you have to understand your business, your percentages, what you want. And with you saying all that with the thrifting and the Ross and the 5 times and the 2 times, you really got to be smart about what you want to resell. And it seems like you really understand it and you have it under control. So what does your sourcing schedule look like?
So
Because
I
you also
did,
go to you also go to school. Are
yeah.
you going to school full time or part time?
So it's full time. I'm in community college now, and then next semester I transfer to a 4-year
Hmm.
university. I'll be there for 2 years, and then I go off to grad school. My course load is very light right now. It's prereqs. It's easy stuff, so it's not too bad. When I start going to the next school, that's going to be much more intense in terms of the amount of classes I'm taking and the amount of hours I have to put in. The material becomes much more important, so I actually have to study it and learn it. So it's going to be a little bit tougher going forward. But for right now, I just recently devised a schedule. Before that, I was pretty much just random doing whatever, especially over the summer where I had nothing to do but this. I would just go out all day, every day, just trying to go and find stuff. But I realized very quickly that, yeah, I have to kind of regiment myself because if I don't, I feel like I'm running ragged all over the state, and it's hard for other things I have to get done in my life. So for me, I'm trying to source Monday through Friday and try to leave the weekends open. Saturday, if I want to run out somewhere, I'll do it, but try to keep everything between Monday and Friday. I have designated days for certain stores and certain areas, and I'm more concentrated on the thrifting than I am the retail. So I prioritize that first. But Monday through Friday is trying to go. I'm going to try to make that my grind. Sundays are off entirely, and then Saturdays will be if necessary or if desired.
Yeah, what's the percentage that you currently have of the thrift game and then the retail side for your
Uh,
business?
that's tough because it's just been recently where it's been a big influx. I'd say it's probably still far more retail.
Yeah.
I do the outlets too, so I still go to the outlets and I do very well there. I'm always coming away with multiple pairs, and so that's very important to me as well. So I'm still very much more into the retail right now. If you're looking at my inventory, it's gonna be far more retail than it is thrifting now. Plus, the thrifted stuff sells through a lot quicker. I'm finding because you get to price it lower. Because you're not paying as much, and so it sells through quicker. So whereas the retail stuff takes a little bit longer to sell. So it's far more retail right now, but I'm hoping to one day try to make that transition over to maybe like 60, 70% thrifted. But it's hard because there's really only two thrift stores in my area that are worth going to. Goodwills are by and large pretty tough around here, at least for what I'm trying to do.
Hmm.
So it's not like I have like 10 different stores I can go to. I rely on kind of pretty much two in the area. So, but I do well there. So.
Awesome, man. Um, what's the competition look like in your area when you're sourcing the thrifting side and then also the retail side? Do you ever run into any other resellers out there?
I've ran into Stevie D like 5 times, like while out. Like I've been in his area, he's been in my area. I was walking out of a store in his area, and he was walking in after work, and I was like, oh, no, dude, nothing here. And then we just kind of laughed and we chopped it up for like a half hour, just standing outside the store. So that was a cool moment. And then a couple weeks ago, after school, I ran over to an area with a few stores, and as I pulled in, I checked Instagram because I'm always checking. I'm always checking
Hmm.
for people in my area, and I saw him post, and I'm like, ah, fuck. So I had to message him, and be like, dude, where'd you hit today? And he'll do the same thing with me. And he's like, yeah, I just got through this area. And I'm like, fuck. So then I walk outside, and as I'm walking to my car, he pulls up with like a car full of shoes,
Oh
and I'm like,
man.
oh shit, like he got me today. But it's all love. I don't, and then there's one other guy I keep an eye on, and then there's probably a few other people I see in Jersey, but I don't know exactly where they're at. But yeah, that's about it. But I don't really see them. I mean, they are my competition in a way, but at the same
Hmm.
time, like if you step back, you realize that there's enough for everybody to win. And there's things that I do well and he does well and other people do well. And we all have our thing. And it's like you're not gonna shoot 100%. You're not gonna get every shoe. You're not gonna beat everybody to everything. You're gonna miss. So it's like I'd rather people that I know, like Stevie, I'd rather him come up on something than somebody that I don't know. You know what I mean? So, but it's all love. I love the competition in the area. There's not too much, so I don't feel like it's that much. But yeah, not too much going on.
No, that's cool, man. I'm the same way where I can't be everywhere all the time as I would love to be, but as long as the right person finds it, they price it right. I am so cool with that. It's just I hate when the good product gets into the wrong hands, and I think that's something that's been going on in the IG world where it's just like, man, people are really tanking the price, and some people are holding on to stuff for over a year just to wait for these, low ballers to our undercutters to get out. What are your thoughts on the undercutters or the low ballers right now that are, really messing up the market?
Man, I just had to send two messages out to people yesterday on eBay. I've never done this, but I just felt
Hmm.
like I had to. They were I just posted them on my Instagram, the Peg 35 samples that I found, the Oregon one and the Kenya one. And I sold the Kenya pair, and I just want to see if there was any other out there. I was like, I sold mine. Like, has anybody else found any? I'm just curious. I found one guy. He had a size 7, so it's a small size, but he had a bid. He did an auction, and he started the auction at $54.99 with free shipping. And it's probably going to end within the next 24 hours. He has no bids. But I messaged him and I was like, yo, man, like you can get way more than these. I just sold these for 150. Like they're like there's money in these. They're rare. Like you're the only one on the market with them. Like you should raise your price. Like I'm just trying, just trying to help you out. And he said, oh, it's just an auction. This is the start price. Like it's just an auction. This is where it starts, yada yada. I'm like, yeah, man, but auctions tend to get far less than buy it now. It's like you're gonna want to come up. And he never changed his price, and his auction's probably going to end with no bids, and he'll probably end up selling them for a few dollars over retail. And it just bugs me because it's just like, what's out there. And one of them copied my description, like not they paraphrased it, but they definitely used stuff from my description. So they know they're looking at the market, they know what's out there, they see the
Yeah.
prices, and then they chop it down by $30. I'm like, dude. I don't know. I feel like it's people who are new, they're scared, they want to get their money out real quick, and they're saying, why I don't need a $90 profit on this item. I could take 30 and get out quick. And for me, it's just like, I guess it's everyone's interest in this are different. Some people, this is a business, some people it's a side hustle, some people are just trying it out. And so they're not really thinking about how their actions affect other people. As far as how it affects us, the resellers who do this, for real, I think patience is always going to win. And I've sold stuff for fair value, even though that the price was, kind of tanked a little bit. I've seen other people get insane prices for stuff that was selling for 50, 60, $70 lower than what they sold it for. So I think if you're patient, you can get fair value for most things. If you're patient and you play the game right and you wait for those guys to kind of leave the market because they'll sell through and then the value goes back up when the supply is low. But there are some things like you remember the glitter foams that came up a couple months ago that people were finding
Yeah.
at Burlington, and they're like $70. And at first they were like a great flip, and then they hit everywhere, and people were selling them for like 90 shipped. I had to take those back because the
Yeah.
market was just so flooded. I'm like, for $70, I can't wait on these forever. So I had to take those back. So that's one of the few times where, a flood will kind of sway me out of the market. But I think if you're patient, you can get through anything.
Yeah, imagine if there's a flood and everybody's price high. I mean, just think about how that would look where, okay, a $70 item, let's say everybody prices that at, 179. And if everybody's there, then I think it goes down to pictures or maybe where you're located because you can get the shoe faster. And I think that's one thing as resellers, everybody that's reselling, the whole community. If we're all on the same page, man, I think we can really do some damage and the profitability can be there for everybody, or at least have a baseline where it's like, okay, we're all at 179. And if some people say, well, I want to get these phone posits for 199, but at least the low end is
It's
179,
still
so
good.
it's still good. And I think if we all come together, that could be, yeah, that's one of my dreams, man. It's like, why don't we all just price together? And that's what I do sometimes when I see a guy out there or a gal that has something. Hey, what are you going to price your shoe at? Regardless on the size, I'm still curious of what they're going to price theirs at, so we can all be in the same wavelength. Now, you mentioned you were talking about the auction for this one guy with the sample shoes. What platforms are you currently selling on?
So eBay, Poshmark, Mercari, Goat, and StockX. So those 5 have been key for me.
Yeah, which one do you like the best and why?
I love Posh. I've fallen in love
Really?
with Posh the last 3 or 4 months. I do the most volume on there now. When I started, it was eBay. I did everything through eBay, and then I integrated the other 4 platforms, probably within a month or two. Didn't take them too serious at first, was slow to jump on. And so everything ran through eBay. And I was wondering when I was using those platforms, like how I was ever going to jump to those other ones because I saw other people killing it on Posh. And so I was like, I don't know how you guys are selling all this stuff on these platforms because for me, it seems really slow. problem was I didn't understand how they worked. And I didn't understand how something like Poshmark, where you actually have a community. What's dope about Poshmark is that you have a community, and it's not just a marketplace to buy and sell goods. You can share things, you can like things, you can add things to your closet, and not even sell them, but just add them to your closet just to show people. And there's parties that people, you'll have a party where, it's best in shoes party, and you can share your shoes to that party, and then people can shop within that party. And it's really dope because you have this interaction between buyers and sellers on a marketplace. Where Mercari lags is that they don't have that. You can send messages on Mercari, you can't on Posh, but Mercari doesn't feel like, and eBay the same way, they don't feel like they have that community. It feels more like a transactional experience, and it doesn't really feel like you have this community of buyers and sellers. And so that's why I really love Posh, because you can promote your own items for free by sharing them. You get them out in front of people. Shipping $6.79 up to £5, so the buyer doesn't have to come out of pocket too much for shipping. You don't have to pay shipping unless you offer a discount. The fee is 20%, but it's comparable to eBay and Go and stuff like that when you take everything into account. And just the shipping discount's huge. And so for me, and they take out fees right away. Like you don't, like eBay, you have to go back in and pay them. They accumulate in a separate account, and you have to go back and pay them. I find that a pain in the ass. But I love Posh. And I just opened an eBay store a couple of days ago because I figured it was just time to make that leap. I haven't been doing much in eBay the last couple of months, and I felt like if I really want to start selling through stuff more, I should probably get up on eBay. And I want to beat those insertion fees, so having an eBay store is just a good way to go.
Yeah, man. I got an eBay store. It's the basic one. I think I don't know. I don't know if you got that one.
Yeah.
It's like $6 a month, and you get up to 100 insertion.
Oh wait, you're
fees
paying
for
$6 a month.
Yeah, I got it for the whole year at $6 a month.
I'm paying 22. I must have got like the next one up then, because I get 250 free listings a month.
That's on you, Jersey flipping.
All right, I guess I'm the only one paying 22 for a basic store.
Nah, there's.
All right.
I think Ross Allenton's paying the same. He has I think he bumped it up, and I know the Hustle B, he has an eBay store, and he pays for one that sounds about right. But no, if you got the items, I mean, you guys have big inventories. I got about 90 items on my eBay store, but if you have over 100, yeah, for sure you want to bump it up. And what's $20, man? That's nothing. Earlier you were talking about that you're an employee at Nike Outlet, and so I got some questions from you to ask you, because I think at one point you were going to start a YouTube channel. Is that correct?
Yeah. I was going to, but I'm terrible with the video and stuff. Like I was going to, and then I'm just like, I don't have the right setup, I don't have the right camera, I don't have the microphone, and I just let that get in the way, and I just never did it. So I apologize to the people that submitted questions when I asked for them, but we're gonna address them now.
Hey, shout out to all the people that asked them. I don't have your name, but this is for you.
You know who you are.
Do Nike stores actually have a locker with returned and or rare shoes that are kept in the back?
Yes, we call it the cage. And so essentially when a product gets returned from an online order, it has to go back into the cage for 48 hours before it can be sold. So we take it back, we print a sticker for it, we throw it in the cage, and that can be stuff that's not even rare stuff. It's not even like limited, whatever. But it does go in the cage. And there are times when we get things that we weren't supposed to get. Like I remember one time we got hyper adapts, like the auto lacing shoes, and we got a couple of them. We weren't supposed to get them. We weren't allowed to sell them. They had to go back in the cage. So a lot of online returns will go in there, and so you'll get a lot of retro Jordans and things like that end up in there. But eventually, after those 2 days, sometimes they sit in there longer. Sometimes employees, like if you go in there and you ask them, do you have anything in the back, cool stuff, whatever. If they're cool, they'll go in the cage. We always went in the cage to find stuff and bring it out to people, because sometimes we forget about it. It sits in there too long, and then every once in a while they clean it out, they throw it in back stock, and then it'll hit the hash wall eventually.
Yeah. So how big is this cage that you're talking about? Is it like those? I don't know if you gone to Ross and you see those return cages on wheels. Is it similar size to that, or is it a bigger cage?
It's like picture like a locker. Picture like probably a 10 to 12 foot locker.
Oh wow, okay.
With like double doors that open up, and multiple shelves. It's pretty big.
No, that's good to know. So anybody out there that's interested or does reselling and sources at Nike Outlet, hey, ask about the cage in the back. Next question. Is there any difference in the different price stickers used on the hash sneakers?
Yes, so there's three different colors stickers that will end up on a hash shoe. The first there's a green sticker that means marked down, so the product was recently marked down. There's a clearance sticker, which is the orange sticker that you'll see. Those are for 97 prices only, so those would be your 34.97, 21.97, stuff like that. And then there is a third color that changes every quarter. That's going to be your starter price, which is what they initially price it at, or the base price, or I forget how it was explained to me, but essentially it's before the markdown, and then the clearance sticker will come after the markdown. I'm not sure if we'll clearance something twice. Like, for example, if we clearance a shoe down to 34.97, I'm not sure if it sits long enough that we'll clearance it again for 21.97. I'm not sure if we did that, but there may be instances like that. But basically, I think once it hits that clearance sticker, that's like last price.
Okay, no, that's good to know. Now, what's the employee discount for Nike employees?
So you get 30% off in store at Nike Towns and Nike outlets and stuff like that. And then you get 40% off online. There are some, or like Nike.com. There are some restrictions and some things that you can't use it on. I know before I got there, you were allowed to use Nike promo codes on top of your discount. So if they ran a 25% off clearance sale, you could use that code on top of your discount, which was probably dope as hell. But I never got
Mhm.
to experience that. But yeah, in store you do get to stack your 30 off with like the hash and stuff like that. You can't take advantage of friends and family sales. They do bump your in-store discount up to 40 to compensate for that, but you don't get to take advantage of friends and family. You don't get to take advantage of MVP. You're excluded from certain promos, stuff like that, and you don't get any extra incentive. You don't get any extra odds at like hot releases. I thought you did. You don't. There's no separate store for you to buy Travis Scott's or anything like that. So we're playing on the same field. We were all trying to scramble after the morning meeting to get to our lockers to get to that 10 a.m. drop. There's a lot of times where like we would all be talking about a shoe that we really wanted that was dropping that day, and the store opens at 10, and we would do a meeting just before 10 o'clock, and so we were like hoping that the meeting would end early so we could go get in and like get the shoe. So yeah, we don't get any special privileges, but yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, out of you mentioned that you guys were, interested in the sneakers dropping, right? Now, how many Nike employees at your store were resellers, or they were just, sneakerheads that really wanted them for the collection?
There was a lot of sneakerheads, and especially the people who were managers or like who had been there for a while. A lot of sneakerheads. You did have people that came in for like a month or like seasonal that came and went. They didn't care, but most of the people that stuck there long enough did have an interest in shoes. Now I minded my own business. I didn't, I was friends with a lot of people, but I also like mind my business in a lot of instances. So I later learned that there were people who were reselling stuff, which you can get fired for if they find out. But I think that most of us were interested in shoes, and like when we saw stuff, like we were, we wanted it for ourselves. We weren't thinking resell. Like we were. I think my store is very unique from a lot of people's stores because I hear stories about other people's stores being very shady, and no, most people there were sneakerheads.
Yeah, when's the best time to go to the Nike outlets to source?
Definitely in the morning, because we'll fill all the sneakers before the store opens. That's paramount. Sometimes you'll see us stocking, or you'll see us, like I work there. You'll see them stocking between like 11 and 12. But then after a certain point on the weekdays, like after 12 o'clock on weekdays, they'll kind of stop doing that because they want a customer service. On weekends when it's busy, they try to get everything filled before the store opens. But yeah, we fill the hash wall as quickly as possible in the morning. We try to get that full because if it looks empty, then people kind of have like a negative perception of the store. And so we want to get that filled. So your best odds of grabbing something off the hash wall is definitely as soon as the store opens. Go on the weekends when the sale starts. Know when your sales are. Go on first thing in the morning, and you'll have your pick your choice of the hash wall.
Yeah, with the hash wall, I gone into a Nike outlet and I said, "Hey man, do you guys got like a full like a complete box in the back?" And the guy says, "Yeah, we can get you like one or two." So what's the deal with that as far as you find a shoe in the hash wall? the top of it is cut off. Can you get a complete box in the
As a
back?
reseller, well, so we did have rules with resellers. Of course, you know the cash limits as many as you're allowed to buy, but we weren't supposed to help resellers, bulk buyers. You're not supposed to go in the back and grab inventory. You're not supposed to offer them more sizes. What's on the floor is what they can buy, and they have to keep all of their shoes with them. They were not allowed, like you weren't supposed to be allowed to like fill up 5 bags, take it to the front, sit it there, come back, and just keep making trips. I've seen that in other stores, and I've even seen that at the store that I worked at after I left. It's definitely not supposed to happen. As far as going into the back and grabbing inventory for a reseller, you know, if you're asking people to bring out 10 pairs on a bulk buy, they shouldn't, but I've seen it happen. So I mean, if you have the connections, I'm sure they'll help you out. I've even walked into a store in Philly. I walked in, as I'm walking in, I see a guy. He had a whole dolly full of Be True Air Max 720s sitting up at the register. As he was checking out, I'm like, that's not you can't do that. The guy had like 30 pairs, and it's just I don't know. He had a friend with him, so they made the limits, but you're definitely not supposed to be helping out resellers in that way. But if you wanted to, yeah, you could definitely say, hey man, can I get a full box? They'll do that for you if they have it back there.
Cool, man. That's good to know. Now, how was your experience working there?
Oh, it was dope. Like I said earlier, it's really fun experience. A lot of, we had these meetings every quarter that were, they were instructional, and we had videos, motivational stuff. We did like little demonstrations and stuff like that. We got to test product. We got free stuff every quarter. The environment's really cool because you're working with people who are, like-minded in a lot of ways, but then also very different. Lots of different backgrounds, lots of different people. Nike is very diverse and pushes
Absolutely.
diversity and stuff like that. So you meet a ton of really cool people, and the culture is just really open and cool and fun. And it was fast paced, so there was never a dull moment. You were always on your feet. You were always moving, and I made a lot of really cool friends there. So as for me, it was like my favorite job ever. Just because of the people that I worked with made that job so special. The job itself, selling shoes and stuff, that wasn't that great, but the people that I worked with made the job awesome. And then of course you have things like back to school and Black Friday that are kind of scary to deal with at times. But they're definitely cool stories to tell when you can sit here and reminisce with your former coworkers about being working at 4 a.m. on Black Friday, being tired as hell, and all that, and dealing with the rush. At 2 in the morning, you're taking your lunch break. It's just weird, but like, a lot of cool, unique experiences. I had a ton of fun there. And if you're looking for like a side job, if you're young or you want to get started in the company, that's a good way to go.
Yeah, man, I got family members that work for Nike Outlet, and they get some cool benefits with the Converse side as well. So if you have kids, you can buy some stuff over there, but that's definitely cool. So what kind of advice would you give somebody that's a college student and doesn't want to get a part-time job, let's say at a retail place, but they still want to go to school, they kind of want to, pay for as much as they can with books or tuition. What kind of advice would you give them if they wanted to do reselling and college full time?
Um, I would I would hope that you had some kind of capital to back you up. If you have $0 in your pocket, go get a job because you have to trade something for something. Everything's about trading. So like if you have $0, you can't expect to be buying up shoes and flipping stuff. So go trade your time for money, accumulate money, and then you can use the money you accumulated off the time that you sold to the company, and then take that money and go invest it into shoes, and then those shoes you can flip them, make a profit, reinvest it, and then build. But if you're broke and you have nothing, definitely don't open a credit card and start flipping stuff. I know it's tempting, you see people doing it and all that, but like you're gonna land yourself in trouble because you don't know what you're doing yet, and it looks easy, but like the further I get into this, the more I realize like this is a business, and like I can't just keep spending money forever, and like I need to come up with some kind of business plan. Like it is very real. So if you want to do this full time through college and support yourself, definitely make sure you have a plan. Definitely make sure you have some money to back you up. Make sure you have what you're doing. Start small and then build. But if you have money to do it, and you have some kind of idea of what you're doing, definitely start and build. And then after you get some experience and you have confidence in your abilities, definitely do it. Because when I quit Nike, I definitely, I had a nice, what do they call it? Like rainy day fund or safety net. I had
Yeah.
that in place, and I knew that I could survive for a couple months doing this. If even if it bombed, I knew that I was good and I could go back to the job. It wasn't, just jumping off the cliff. So definitely make sure you start slow.
Well said, well said. Thank you for that. And I think someone that's in your situation, I think they would appreciate that advice instead of, just learning the hard way. Now, where can people find you on social media?
Just jersey flipping on Instagram. That's my handle. Follow me over there. I'll be there answering DMs, talking whatever you want to talk about. Hit me up. I'm always open to talking and answering DMs. DMs.
Awesome. You hear that, everybody? You can DM him and he'll respond to you. Now, that's very cool, man. I think that's what really helped me learn a lot as well. And, I appreciate everybody that answered my DM. And if you didn't, shame on you. Just kidding.
Yeah, it's been dude, it's so crazy. Like just posting my finds on Instagram. I could probably go back and I probably have hundreds of DMs from random people and the people that stick around. Like I know so many people I communicate with regularly on there. It's crazy. Like you form these friendships with people you've never met, never will meet, probably will never see their face or hear their voice. But like it's just dope that we have this community and everyone kind of seems to know each other. If you've been in this long enough, you tend to stick around and it's just cool how we know each other and become friends over this.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, man. There's some people you'll never hear their voice, like you said. You'll never talk to them on the phone. But one thing that I really enjoy about this community and being part of it is that no one's a hater, man. I mean, I think everybody genuinely wants the next person to succeed. And that's one thing that I really trip out about. And I tell my wife, I'm like, man, the only time you hate is like that you didn't find that shoe. That's the only time where the frustration kicks
Yep.
in. But that's part of the game. Last question: what kind of advice would you give yourself in the last 3 to 5 years, whether it's personal or whether it's related to reselling?
I just tell myself to trust the process. Over here in the South Jersey, Philly area, trust the process has been very, very popular over the last couple of years. I'm sure everybody knows with the Sixers. So to use that phrase, trust the process. 5 years ago, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was lost, had no direction of like what kind of career I was going to have. But I found that I took 5 years off of school, didn't just working odd jobs and didn't really know where I was going. But I found that all those experiences that I've had up to this point have made me the person that I am. And if I didn't have this period of just trying stuff and just doing stuff and trying different jobs and just taking it how it comes, I would have never arrived to where I am. And it was all those different experiences that I got from just trying and experimenting that led me to realizing what my true passion is and got me back in school. And now I know why I'm doing what I'm doing. So I think for me and for a lot of people, like just trusting the process and just knowing that like, hey, you may not be where you want to be now, and that's okay. You could be 23, 33, 44 and be lost. That's fine. Just keep working and just trust that if you keep taking the right steps, keep taking action, eventually you're gonna figure it out and get there eventually. Just don't feel in a rush because you see people your age with money or cars or vacations or getting married and you're not because you're in a different place. Just trust the process. Everything will work out.
Absolutely, man. Well said. Thank you. Also, Jersey Flipping, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me, sir. Appreciate it. It was fun.
Anytime, man. You're always welcome to come back. Also, want to thank the audience for tuning in. And I want to especially thank everybody out there that's helping me promote a reseller's journey podcast and putting it in their stories. And then also all the positive feedback that I'm getting in the DMs. Thank you to everybody.
Dude, this is
You can
awesome.
find
This is
Go
also
ahead.
just real quick. I just want to say this is
Yeah.
awesome. Like you've had some great guests, great shows. I've listened to every episode in full, and it's great what you're doing. So Joey, keep going, man, because it's definitely
Hey.
needed in this community.
Yeah, thank you. Awesome. You can find today's guest on Instagram at Jersey Flipping, and you can find me on Instagram at eBay Joey. If you like what you're hearing, don't forget to subscribe and follow on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Remember, never forget why you started.